Hello, everybody. We are live again with Surviving Quarantine by Spreading Life. It is another week. I don't even know. I think we're on week 6 of doing this. I'm pretty sure we're on week 6 of doing this. And I'm excited today because I have one of my friends on, Ryan. And Ryan is very big on talking about stress. And if y'all are feeling stressed right now, this is a great talk to listen to, as well as give us your conversation, give us your questions. What are you stressed with and how are you doing it? As always, I'd like for you to please like, subscribe, and share this so that we can continue to bring positivity to your news feed. And let's just go ahead and get into it. Are we stressed much, Ryan?
Just a touch right now, just a touch. And I want to lead with anybody that's listening to this right now. We are all recalibrating. We are all figuring it out on an hour by hour, day by day basis. The people that do this for a living, stress reduction, health and wellness people, my peeps, we're figuring it out too. Life is not rainbows and butterflies and little ponies.
Mm-hmm.
These are really stressful times.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to just remind everybody that we're all figuring this out and remind you that even if we're 6 feet apart or you can't see people, you're not alone. You know, we're all in this storm. We're not all in the same boat or boats. We're in the same storm. So just give yourself an extra scoop of grace right now. Give everybody else a little extra scoop of grace. We just haven't dealt with anything like this before. I mean, it's been a very long time, and we've never had an incident like this where we also know every minute what's going on. We can know every minute what's going on. So for everybody that's feeling overwhelmed, just realize that this is temporary. We will get through this. Yes, it is very serious. I never want to downplay this because unfortunately, people can't go home right now and other people won't go home, and it's very sad. So I never want to downplay this, but I do want to focus more on the positivity and the let's get through it, and you know there will be good things on the other side of this. So I just wanted to lead with that, and hello to everybody, and I hope that you're making it work in your own specific way.
And I love that. And so Ryan, to get a little bit more background about yourself, how long have you been talking about stress, and why did stress come up in the thing that you're now an expert and you go around the nation speaking to people about?
Sure. So it's everybody always has a unique journey that arrives there, but I grew up a pretty active kid. I was, hiking and camping and spending time outside and playing pretty much every sport that was available. So when I started to look at colleges and look at programs, my mom was running a physician practice, a family care. And she said, health promotion is really becoming a thing right now. You should at least look into this. They all wanted me to make my own decisions. And I looked into it and I said, wow, this is great. I get to work with people, help people, and, have a pretty active position because I know myself and Ryan in a cube just didn't feel right. So I went to school for exercise science with a concentration in health promotion and fitness management. Worked in corporate fitness for a year with a company called MediFit. I believe now they're Exos. And that was a wonderful experience. And then I realized I wanted to have more of an impact. I wanted to work with people that were facing bigger challenges. So I found a job as an exercise physiologist and fitness supervisor with a medical center in New Jersey. And I was able to work in 2 medically based fitness centers. So gyms open to the community, but we also housed a lot of cardiac rehab. We have physical therapy, the Center for Advanced Weight Loss, like the gastric bypass. And we had a lot of patients from the hospital that were referred to the wellness centers for exercise programs. So I got to work with some incredible people after cardiac events, after knee replacements, extra supplemental aftermarket parts in their spine. All these amazing people, they were facing a lot of different challenges. Some of them were accidents, some of them were preventable. And over the course of the years, I realized, there's a bit of a theme here of all these people that are coming in, whether it's they're dealing with, they have an enormous amount of weight to lose, or they're in pain or they hurt themselves in a certain way. Not to give it a blanket statement and say that all of these were preventable, but many of these were preventable injuries or preventable illnesses.
Mhm.
And when I really spent some time thinking about it, it all boils back to how we deal with stress.
Mhm.
And a stress will come into our life, and some people get stressed out and they eat too much, or they eat the wrong things, or they drink, or they smoke, or they drive like not so friendly people. We get short with our kids. We lose sleep. We don't take care of ourselves. If anybody's listening to this that's ever experienced back pain, it will change you as a person when
Mhm.
you're in that constant pain. So I've worked with a lot of people that are, maybe 40, 50, 60, 70 pounds overweight, and they're holding a lot of that in their midsection. Well, I don't know why my low back hurts. Well, that is all that weight is constantly pulling on your lumbar spine, and that's going to create issues in your back. And then you're going to have trouble sleeping, and then you're going to be irritable, and then you're
Mhm.
going to get into more coffee and more sugar, and it's like a slippery slope. So what I really focus on now is the true prevention end. I help people
Mhm.
put band-aids on and then, prevent it in the future, because there's a lot that we can control. There's a lot in life that we have to let go of the control, but there's a lot that we can. And when we take that stance of I am in control of my life and I'm going to do what I can to be proactive and not reactive, so that way I'm not in physical therapy for something that I could have avoided, or I'm not cutting my life 20 years short. Or for companies, bringing people in that are rested,
Mhm.
people that are not in pain, people that are able to focus and be highly productive, whether that's a construction kind of blue collar geared company, or the sales department. When you have good sleep and you're eating the right foods and you're moving your body enough, you're going to be better at everything you do, and people are going to get the real version of you. For any parents that are listening to this, what is your kid like when they're tired? What is your kid like when they're hungry? And what is your kid like when they haven't moved enough? We're
Mhm.
just all versions of that. We have
Uh-huh.
the same problems. We have the same basic hardware upstairs, and we have the same basic needs. But what I saw a lot of was people trying to create overly complex solutions for their problems. And oftentimes their problems were complex. I will give you that. But a lot of times we try to skip like those foundational steps of, am I sleeping enough?
Mhm.
Am I eating real food, enough of it, not too much, not too little? And am I moving
Mhm.
enough? And it sounds really simple, but it's wildly effective.
It is, it's very effective, and I think that's one thing that I love that you talk about stress too, is because I have a background in exercise and health science,
Right.
and, one thing that I always said is that whenever I was stressed, there was a lot of times I was eating healthy and I was moving, but the stress, I didn't know how to deal with it, so my mood and I internalized it,
Yes.
and so it was funny whenever I quit a job to start my own business, I actually lost 10 pounds, but it was all due to stress. And so the thing is when you don't look at that and look at or do deal with it in certain ways that are effective, so in movement, in sleep, if you're not dealing with it, a lot of people want to lose weight, but they can't because stress actually hurts that because the cortisol effect of it.
Right.
So I think that's something that's very important. So right now, what is some of the biggest things that you find yourself speaking to people about? And I know that you speak to parents a good bit. So I'm going to go on that parent side about stress. And then on top of that, about stress with kids.
Sure. Sure. So one thing that in our society, and especially now, we try to do all the things. We try to cram everything in, but a couple little tips that I can share with everybody and real quick, because this could be a 2-hour discussion in itself, is that time is the only finite resource.
Hmm.
We all have about 16 hours every day to get done what we need to get done. 8 if we have a normal 8-hour a day job. And then when you factor in, bodily functions, getting ready for bed, getting up in the morning, paying the bills, doing some of the basic chores, it boils down pretty quickly to about 4 hours a day. And when we look back over the last week, last month, last year, and you think about, what does my life entail? really focused on those 4 hours. That's what you're going to remember the most. And that's what's really going to dictate how everything else plays out. So I've been helping a lot of people right now with prioritization
Mhm.
because everybody has to readjust, everybody has to recalibrate. And we're learning how to work from home. We're learning how to deal with homeschooling at the same time, having, that close family proximity, not just more, all the time, uh,
Mhm.
especially for the communities that are in a full lockdown right now. People need some space, but they're not allowed to have that right now. So one thing that's really powerful for a lot of people is to assess how you're using your time and figure out, what is the priority.
Mhm.
It wasn't until 1940 that we invented the word priorities. Before
Huh.
that, it was always singular. And then in the 1900s, we just tried to complicate it.
Uh-huh.
So whenever I talk to people about stress and overwhelm, you have to focus on time because that's the one finite resource. Everything else is a variable. What you focus on, where you put your energy, what you give your attention to, how you use that time, and how you manage yourself, you can modify. But I have the same 24 hours that Oprah and The Rock and Brad Pitt have.
Mhm.
Yeah, they have some different resources in different areas, but they still have that same 16 hours. So it's
Mhm.
all about how you use that. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, the first step is to assess, how are you doing this? As
Mhm.
simple as an index card, to keep a log throughout the day. What am I doing? Before you even try to change anything, just see where you're at now. And then you have to choose, what is my priority?
Mhm.
And a lot of times, and I'll try to boil this 2.5 hour discussion into, as fast as I can, but a lot of times, and I've been guilty of this in the past, we think that we're multitasking, which yes, we can multitask as people. I can walk the dog and chew gum and talk on the phone at the same time, but we cannot multi-focus.
Mhm.
And that's a distinction that a lot of people might not even be aware of, but they're trying to do that. They're trying to do four things at once in time that's finite. And then they wonder why they're feeling busy but not productive.
Mhm. And I love that you say that too. Two things that I hear from that and I speak on is that I hear a lot of people say they're busy. And
Right.
we talk about time and time management and how it is one of the best things to do with stress. So I love that you brought that up because one thing that was really surprising for me is Warren Buffett. He said this prior. He goes, um, people can't buy my time. Like, of all things, like time is the most important because people can't buy that from. If you actually look
Right.
at it, was him between Bill Gates, him and somebody else. I can't remember who it was. And basically, they looked at his calendar, and he has one of these. Basically, it's a pocket calendar, and it is
Yep.
empty. And the reason why is because he said, "I can buy anything in the world, but I can't. I can always make more money. I can't make more time."
Right.
And so, prioritizing your time and having from that mindset too that your time is the most valuable resource. You're not going to get it back. You can't. So I love that you spoke on that. But then the other thing that you hit on was making sure that we are aware. Like,
Mhm.
not just hop into something like, I need to eat right, I need to do like,
Right.
whoa, let's just assess the situation. And a lot of people, I think, just hop into something without even looking and being aware of that. So let's talk about that for a second. And again, if anybody has any questions or comments, please put them in the comments below. We would love to hear from you and love to know your questions as well. So, what about awareness? How can we be more aware to even know that we're stressed?
Sure. So I'm going to go to a tool. There's a lot of times we can talk about concepts, but here's a tool. $15 on Amazon. Type in Brendan Burchard's High Performance Planner,
Mhm.
and it's outlined. A lot of times people will get a blank journal and just think that they're going to come up with their own structure, and which creates more overwhelm and it's not productive. So it's an example of a blank page. It tracks time throughout the day. It gives you, your morning rituals, your evening recap, and there's some structure to it. And it's just 2 pages per day. So that is a wonderful use of $15 if somebody is feeling out of control. And I try as often as I can to give you like, here's a specific tool versus just here's the concept. So Brendan Burchard's High Performance Planner, that it has an accompanying book, High Performance Habits, but the planner is wonderful. You don't even need to read the book. You can start using it, well, in 2 days, or a little bit more now.
Yeah.
The amount of Amazon orders that are going out.
Yeah.
That is a wonderful way to assess where you're at. And that way you can then make a plan to simplify, prioritize, and delegation is really important as well. We had mentioned parents. So one thing that I had to evolve with when I became a father, I grew up in the mindset of, you change your own oil and you rotate your own tires. And I grew up on dirt bikes and quads and Jeeps and everything like that. And up until that point, I had always done that. I had rotated my own tires, changed my own oil, done the air filter, this, that, and the next thing. So right before our son was born, I bought a brand new vehicle. And it came with 3 oil changes and tire rotations included with the purchase. And of course, I used the third one, when he was an infant, and then I came up to need it again. And I just happened to be in the area, the dealership, and I said, well, how much is it? Well, it's, $70. Okay. So I called Advance, and this was a new vehicle to me. So I had to get all the numbers on, this is the oil, this is the filter, this air filter, this, that, and the next thing. I called them, and well, it's going to be $60 just for the parts. And I was like, well, for $10, I'm gaining myself like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have to get filthy dirty and potentially throw my back out hauling around big tires. And now I have an expert working under the car looking for stuff that I would probably miss. But again, It boils back to that time. So now I'm going to spend $10 to gain, an hour, maybe an hour and a half. I was like, that sounds like a pretty good number. So I'm sitting in the waiting room and they're doing the oil change, and I happen to be glancing around because my battery ran dead on my laptop. I didn't plan to do this day, so I didn't have a charger cord with me. And I see a sign that says, ask us about bulk oil changes and tire rotations. And I said, well, I can follow instructions. So I walked over to the service counter and I said, what is that? And they said, well, you can buy them in bulk. And I said, okay, tell me more. You can buy them 3 at a time. And as long as you use them within a year, it's valid. You have 12 months from the time of purchase. I said, okay, how much is that? $99. I was like, so $33 each time. Now I'm saving myself time and money, and there's a professional working under it. So that is just one example of how when you delegate something, you put yourself in the priority, you're probably getting better service, and you can focus on what you need to focus on. So then each time I need an oil change, I don't miss a beat. I'm still working, or I'm still doing stuff I need to do. Or I'm making phone calls versus being greasy and dirty under a Jeep, which I love. And every once in a while, I'm sure I will do that. But right now in this chapter of my life, it's okay to delegate things like that. And there's oftentimes a lot of people try to do, again, all the things, where when you delegate a little bit, it can lower your stress, better use your time. For some people, maybe it's getting the lawn cut by somebody else. For me, I have chosen to delegate. I could probably make my own shirt, but I have delegated that out to somebody else. I will buy a shirt. I'll do the same thing with blue jeans and shoes. But we hold on to a lot of this. Like, I have to do it. I have to have this control. But if we start to delegate, that's the big difference between people that are successful and not successful. It's just how you use your time and what is your priority. Try not to put that into the plural tense, and delegate out as much as you can.
And I love that. And I think if people thought it would be as crazy as making your own shirt as it would be doing a lot of the tasks. And it's also knowing this is something that's a little bit different that people may think is weird, but know your number.
Right.
Like, what is your value? And that's really hard for a lot of people to, even as a business owner, I will tell you, it is even difficult for me to know my value and my number. But at times you have to look at it and see, at what cost is it that you can make more time? And so people are thinking on this, maybe watching, like, well, I don't have money in the first place, so how am I supposed to be doing? And their focus is on the money aspect of it. So how can we help people understand during this time too, that like saving money and how much that can reduce stress? Because as I go into companies, people want to be more supported, and that's financially supported, and less stressed.
Right.
and they want to be able to have conversations and have psychological safety with it. But with that aspect of it, what are some things that people can do to focus on a little bit on making sure that that doesn't add to their stress?
Sure. And that's a very relevant question right now. A lot of people are dealing with financial instability, financial insecurity, and we as human beings desire certainty.
Mhm.
There isn't a lot of that going around right now. And especially if we play into the news and the social media, it's like that slippery slope of chaos and overwhelm. But a lot of people focus on only how do I make more? Well, maybe the other half of the equation is how do I spend a little bit less?
Mhm.
So again, in the spirit of giving everybody a tool, um, Netflix is getting a lot of use right now. A lot of people are spending time on Netflix,
Mhm.
which can be its own discussion in itself. And back in the day, in another chapter of Ryan, I was a Blockbuster employee,
I
and
love that.
always in the discussion of you have to evolve because there isn't a whole industry not willing to evolve, and they went poof,
Mhm.
away the dinosaur. So when it comes to the finances, again, my background is exercise science, but I'm just speaking from my experience that when my wife and I realized, all right, we have X number of dollars worth of student debt, this is something that we chose to do. We took responsibility for that. Instead of it just being this dark Charlie Brown cloud over our head, we said, this is a real thing. These are numbers on a spreadsheet. The companies that are going to be getting this money, to them, it's just a number on a spreadsheet. And, when we get this emotional attachment to a piece of paper, people get really complicated about that. So we just made a really aggressive plan to pay off that student debt. So I'm a big proponent of raising your hand to say, hey, I need help because this is not what I went to school for. And I'm not an expert in this. And, a little bit overwhelms me and scares me. And when I'm scared to make bad decisions, and when I make a bad decision, I'm probably not going to make any progress. And then I'm going to be hesitant in the future to make any progress. So I'm okay with asking for help. So we got a financial advisor, somebody that is their expert role. It's going to get us where we need to go a lot faster and likely cheaper. So we got somebody that, that is their zone. They were able to look at everything we had, simplify it, again, help us understand it, put it all in one place instead of it being bought and sold and bought and sold and bought and sold. Because to us it was, that's 20 years from now, that's 30 years from now. But those numbers on a spreadsheet were changing. So
Mhm.
it's important, again, in the spirit of assessing, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it really comes down to assess, prioritize, delegate. So it's important. We ended up paying it off. It took 18 months, but we said, we're not going to go out to dinner. We're going to wait. We're going to keep repairing these old cars. And we got rid of that Charlie Brown cloud. And it was
Mhm.
one of the most freeing feelings ever. And there's a lot of people that are dealing with that. But what I want to offer you is don't get as emotionally into it as a lot of us are. Again, it's a piece of paper, but we put so much value into those numbers. But on the other side of the spreadsheet, the company doesn't care. It's just, yes, you paid it, or no, you didn't.
Mhm.
It's
And
just
I
a
love
number.
that. And
So
I love
I
that.
think that with everything going on right now with the coronavirus, we're learning that we don't need to live at a level that we've been living at. And a lot of times when somebody gets a bonus check or a promotion, they uptick the car, they uptick the house, they uptick the amount of times they go out to eat, what they order, how they live, the size of the TV, and like there's no end to it.
Mhm.
So in this, I started to say in the spirit of tools, on Netflix, there is a documentary called Minimalism,
Mhm.
about an hour and 15 minutes long. Yes, it's a documentary, so there's a couple parts that are a little weird, but overall, the messages are wonderful. And it's all about doing more with less and
Mhm.
focusing on what actually matters to you, not just keeping up with the Joneses. And it talks about
Mhm.
kind of the history of marketing on, whether it's cars or houses or, a lifestyle level. It's not just about how much you're earning, it's how much you're spending. And it's a very basic seesaw. And we try to create this overly complex solution for this as well. It's just we have to spend a little less.
Mhm.
I'm not saying you need to get by on one Honda Civic with 200,000 miles on it, but there are certain things where, is it a need or is it a want?
Mhm.
So I created a training for everybody called Take Control of the Overwhelm, and kind of overcome some of that overwhelm. And it's some short-term band-aids. So for people that now have the gift of time instead of money, one thing I'm having people do is, get all your credit card statements from last month, get 2 different color highlighters, and highlight needs or wants,
Mhm.
and then see where you're at when the dust settles with that, and then see how in the future you can move forward maybe in a different way and use money a little bit smarter, get that dollar to go a little bit further. So yes, financial stress is a very serious thing right now, and we don't know how long this thing is going to last. Again, we're taking it hour by hour, day by day. So I know that as a species, we will get through this and we will recalibrate. And I truly believe that a lot of good things are on the other side of this. There's a lot of terrible things, but I truly believe that we get to enter a new age of appreciation
Mhm.
and a new age of focus. And I know a lot of people that are in our age demographic are much more emphasized on the experience over a thing.
Mhm.
So, we both have little kids. So when people say, well, what does Cole want for his birthday? Or what does Cole want for Christmas? Well, he has plenty of pieces of plastic, except Legos. There is no such thing as too many Legos.
True statement. Until
Yeah,
you step
just
on
have to
me.
throw that in there for whoever anybody that's watching. But if you want to fund a trip to the zoo or the aquarium or something like that, that's wonderful. Or some books or a subscription here. We're all about those experiences. So we just had to delay our Disney trip because of everything that's going on. So we're hoping for 2021 or 2022. But we have an amusement park near here, so we have season passes there and food passes, so we can just go there and have a blast and just have those wonderful family experiences that don't cost a gazillion dollars. There's a lot you can do, and there's a lot. So I run a parenting group called Adventurous Parents, and there's a lot of great ideas floating around in there on, it's okay to have date night that's a couple glasses of wine on the back deck.
Mhm.
That is okay, and that's fun. A date night doesn't have to be spending $100. It's all about the experience of spending time together. And I think we're really being reminded of that right now. People are coloring again. People are reading again. People are talking. People are getting a little fed up with social media stuff. So it's almost like a forced unplug for people, which is really powerful. And I know that was a really long answer to your question, but did I answer your question?
Yes, you did, and I
Yeah.
love that, and I know we're a little bit right at our time, and it said exactly what we did for my little bit, littles, yeah, no
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, and that's the thing for us too, is like experiences, making sure that they have experiences and memories, because that's what I know me, like, that's what I'm gonna remember,
Right.
and so and that's how we're actually wired too. Just think about it, your in your life, do you remember what gifts you got? Or do you remember the experiences you had and the memories that you got to make? So I do
Right.
want to quickly throw. I know that you have worked on a series that we would like to give out. I will put it in the comments. If you would just quickly talk about that, something that you've been working on with your and I will put the take control. I'll make sure that I put that in there, which I guess you did speak on a little bit, but anything else that you wanted to add to that or any way that people can connect with you?
Yeah, sure. So I just really felt so this is 3 weeks ago now. So we're about 6 weeks into it at the time we're recording this. So even at 3 weeks in, I was finding myself feeling overwhelmed, feeling stressed out. I even had a little bit of the eye twitch, and I could feel that my sleep was being impacted. I was falling into a little bit of that emotional eating, a little stress eating, and I had this light bulb, and I'm like, if I'm feeling like this, and this is what I do all the time, how is everybody else feeling?
Uh-huh.
I need to make a resource. I've been gifted with a lot of time right now instead of money. So I've been planning on doing everything online for a while. And the recent events have sped up that timeline. So the time is now to go online. So, in the spirit of done and not perfect, I put together my first online course, which I am sharing with the universe. I decided to call it Take Control, Overcome the Overwhelm. There are 7 modules. They range from 15 minutes to 25 minutes. So not Lord of the Rings status, in depth, but action items. Here are some tools. Here are some band-aids for right now. And here are some ways to prevent that in the future. So We talk about mindset, overall health and happiness, financial stress. That's a wonderful segment there. That's been getting a lot of attention. I've had a lot of conversations around that. Talk about sleep and preparedness. Maybe this is your time to start a morning and evening routine, especially if you have kids. You know, them staying up 2 hours later than normal bedtime is like when we have jet lag on a plane, and everybody suffers when that happens. I talk about nutrition, general movement, and then some other just systems to regain some control. Because again, we're hungry for that certainty. And I've developed a smarter version of a to-do list. And I included that as a bonus for everybody, where you get everything out of your head. And then I run it through a filter of what is urgent, what is not urgent. Mm-hmm. And then you run both of those lists through another filter. And this is all framed out in a worksheet, so you don't have to remember all these steps. And then you take the urgent, non-urgent into needs and wants. Mm-hmm. And it's really important when you run it through those couple lenses to see, all right, where is the priority? What are some other important things? And then I give you a ranking system where you can say, these are the 5 things that I need to get done now. And these are 3 things that would feel good to get done, but aren't super urgent. And then, how is it going to feel when I finish that? So I put that all together. We can share the link. It's called Take Control, Overcome the Overwhelm. So it is my first go around. The audio is not perfect. The video is not perfect, but hey, it's done. And it's all about you implementing things. So, I don't have Hollywood level lighting here, but if John Krasinski can do some good news instead of The Office, then why can't I do this?
I love it. And
you're able to, you can jump in any of the sections. You don't have to go beginning to end. If you did want to look at the whole program, it's about 2.5 hours, and there is a discussion guide, a little fill in the blanks area for notes there as well. So just click that link, your email, and you'll get everything right there.
Awesome. And we'll put that in as well. I'll put the links in on the YouTube and the Facebook side. So actually, I think I can do this right now. So again, if anybody has any additional questions, I know that we're right at our time. So, but I want to say thank you so much for joining us today. I am so grateful for you. And this is just great content. That's just straight up. That's what it is. It's great content. And I know that people took away from this. And I know that's the one thing that I love about what you do is that you have actionable items. It's, again, right. I've probably said this a million times this month, it is not chocolate covered broccoli. It is not palatable good that's covered up with something that you like. It is actually a resource. So, right. And a tool that you can take away and do things with. So
yeah.
I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an awesome and blessed day. And thank you for everybody that joined us today. We are so appreciative of you, and tune in tomorrow as we are talking with Jeremy Johnson about Soul Check. And he works with Work Chaplain. And we're just going to be talking about, hey, have you even had maybe our mental capacity check, maybe our physical, but our soul, where's that at in this time and age? So I appreciate you all, and I hope you have an awesome and blessed day.